Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our News Watch unit for the month of September. It's also our all-English unit, so we're going to be speaking, well, let's see, maybe 90% in English because once in a while a word kind of creeps in from another language and we don't really know what's going on. Maybe we'll say a word in French or Spanish or Japanese or even Chinese. But yeah, we'll do our best to speak totally in English today, the American variety. And we've got a couple of news stories to talk about, and they have to do with creatures, with animals in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, it's a cute animal we're going to be talking about first, and that's the beaver. Those beavers are so cute. They have very sharp teeth, and they like to build dams in the water for a lot of good reasons, I must say. And this news story here we're going to be talking about first is the fact that these beavers sold or finished dams and actually saved the government a lot of money. What's the second story, Tom?
It's about chickens. Now, you sort of implied that beavers are cute, but you sort of also implied that chickens aren't so cute.
They aren't.
Some people like chickens, some people don't. I think a mutual friend of ours had a pet rooster at one time because she had the little chick, you know, they're so cute, and it later grew into a rooster. And so she had a pet rooster, but I think she had to get rid of it because it was crowing in the morning.
Yeah, they're noisy.
And it was, disturbing the neighbors. So she gave it to somebody who lived on a farm or something like that. But that's about chickens. But today, first of all, in our lesson today, we're going to talk about beavers. And this is in the Czech Republic.
But first, we're going to listen to this lesson being read through once, right? Yeah.
Right, let's do it.
Let's do that.
News Watch. Beavers finish Czech dam in days, save 1.2 million euros. After years of delays, a wetland project in the Czech Republic has been unexpectedly completed by beavers. Originally, officials planned to build a barrier to protect endangered species from acidic water into nearby ponds. They also aimed to turn the site into a biodiverse wetland. However, the project stalled due to unresolved land rights and interagency disputes. Then a beaver family moved in and built their own dam within days, saving the government about 1.2 million euros, about 44 million NT dollars. The new wetland now covers nearly 5 acres, about twice what was first planned. The beavers' work prevents flooding, improves water quality, and creates habitats for wildlife. Though they are also blamed by people for damage caused by cutting down trees, experts explain their activity allows sunlight in and helps other plants grow. Moreover, the area became a protected zone in 2016 and lies far from farmland, which reduces the risk of conflict with nearby residents. So far, the beavers have built 4 dams and are still expanding their eco-friendly work.
European chicken programs build greener communities. To combat food waste, some towns in France and Belgium are giving residents free chickens. Chickens are omnivores, so they can eat most household leftovers and naturally minimize waste while providing fresh eggs. One well-known example is Colmar, a town in northeastern France, which launched a program in 2015 offering 2 free hens per household. Participants must provide 8 to 10 square meters of space and agree to random inspections. Over 5,200 hens have been distributed so far, and the program is still ongoing. Besides reducing waste, raising chickens has brought unexpected benefits. Children learn about animals and nature, while neighbors bond by sharing tips or helping with chicken care. With egg shortages becoming more common in recent years, some suggest this kind of program could be viable elsewhere. Still, some worry about noise, bad smells, and whether the public will remain committed in the long term. Avian flu and care costs also raise doubts about the program's sustainability. Even so, the humble chicken may still have a role to play in building greener communities. Okay, let's get started now. Our first headline reads, Beavers finish Czech dam in days and save 1.2 million euros. As they do that, It's nice that you can find animals to do free labor, right? Free construction work. And that's what happened here.
Indeed. And this happened in the Czech Republic, which is in Eastern Europe. And, of course, this is also referred to as Czechia. That name is also commonly heard. Czech Republic, Czechia, those terms are interchangeable. And this is a dam, something that holds back water. And this beaver actually built the dam. Well, beavers, more than one. They built this dam in just a couple of days and saved people there a lot of money. Now, here in the first paragraph, it says, after years of delays, a wetland project in the Czech Republic has been unexpectedly completed by beavers. Now, a wetland, of course, is an area that's mostly wet. It's like a swamp or something like that, or a slough. We can call it that as well. It's kind of a mixture of water and plants, and there are also creatures living there like frogs and turtles, and in this case, beavers.
Sometimes alligators.
Absolutely, so you have to be careful in such areas. And yeah, they wanted to develop this wetland project for some reason, I guess to help the environment or whatever. And again, this happened in Czechia, or the Czech Republic, and it was unexpectedly completed by beavers. The humans were supposed to build it, but these little devils, these beavers with those big flat tails and those sharp teeth, actually went in there and built the dams before the humans had a chance to.
I wonder if they're able to read human minds to know that the humans wanted to build a dam. It's kind of fun. I know when I was growing up, the Czech Republic was part of a place called Czechoslovakia. And then in 1993, it split into two countries, and it was a peaceful separation. Slovakia and the Czech Republic are now separate countries, but they used to be one. I was reading about this morning because I was curious. I thought, why did they peacefully split up? They just wanted different things. The Czech Republic wanted to change faster and wanted to be a capitalist society faster. They don't believe so much in the Roman Catholic religion, whereas the Slovaks are more religious. They wanted to go slower. They had been communists previously, as you know. But it's a beautiful area of the world if you get a chance to go. One of my friends went to Slovakia and was just, raving about it, seeing how beautiful it is. So it's one of the places on my bucket list, a place I want to visit before I kick the bucket or pass away. But getting back to these beavers, they went ahead and finished a dam, and it took them only a few days. It probably would have taken the government forever to finish something, right? But these beavers are very hard workers and finished it when, this dam had been delayed and delayed. I wanted to mention with wetland, you can say it wetland with an sound or a wetland. They're both correct. I'm more like Tom. I say wetland more than I say wetland. But like he said, it's covered with water, shallow water. Taiwan has lots of wetland. We've got a lot of soggy, mushy areas of land, but that's where they wanted to set up this wetland project.
Now, originally, or at the beginning, officials or government officials planned to build a barrier to protect endangered species from acidic water into nearby ponds. Okay, so we've got the government trying to build a barrier, which is like a dam, something to hold back water. And they were doing this to protect the environment. There were endangered species living in two nearby ponds. Endangered species just means animals that are threatened, and they might go extinct if we're not too careful. And they were living in two nearby ponds. A pond is a small lake, of course. And they wanted to protect these ponds from acidic water. Acidic water means it has too much acid in it. If something's acidic, it has a pH value of 7 or less. The opposite would be alkaline or basic. I think you all know that from your chemistry classes.
Or alkaline.
Alkaline, yes, indeed. And yes, indeed, they wanted to protect the ponds from that acidic water because that would have harmed those endangered species. But hey, the beavers beat them to it.
They also aimed, or this was their target or goal, they wanted to turn that site into a biodiverse wetland. If it's biodiverse, it just means it has a lot of different kinds of animals and plants in that one area. So they wanted to make it more biodiverse. However, it says here the project stalled. If something stalls, that's a verb to stall. It just means something has stopped it or delayed its movement or progress. It could have been delayed, stopped, paused. All of those are words you can use. Maybe the project ran out of money. The government didn't have enough money. Or maybe there were too many conflicting opinions about what to do.
Yeah, that reminds me of the 4th nuclear power plant. They were building that, and then it got stalled for various reasons. And I believe it's still just sitting there and not being used. And here the project in Czechia was stalled. It was delayed because of unresolved land rights and interagency disputes. Now, if something's unresolved, it's a problem that people just can't solve. They're supposed to solve this problem, but it's still unresolved. This can happen a lot in politics when they have different ideas about how to do things, and they just can't come to a conclusion. So it's unresolved, and they have to wait for somebody to figure out what to do. And yes, this was unresolved in terms of the land rights. And also we had some interagency disputes. These are different sectors or parts of the government, and they were fighting amongst themselves. No, this is what we're supposed to do. No, we're supposed to do that. You can't do that. We can do that. No, we can do that, and you can't do that. They were having these disputes or arguments.
You know, I was curious and looked this up. I wanted to talk about what's the difference between resolve and solve, because they're very similar. We use resolve when we're talking about something that's that we need to settle or fix, maybe an argument, an issue, a disagreement. We use resolve for that more. Solve is used more when we want to find the answer to a problem, a puzzle, a math problem. If police detectives are trying to solve a crime, they'll use solve. They won't say resolve. So we do use them for different things. So here, resolve is well used because we're talking about an argument, a conflict, or as we like to say here, a dispute, some sort of a disagreement over who is right and who is wrong. Sometimes you have to compromise.
Okay, then a beaver family moved in and built their own dam within days. Okay, so the beavers don't really care what humans are doing. We're beavers. We just want to exist in the river. We want to build our dams. A dam could also be a lodge. When they live inside it, it's called a lodge. And yes, indeed, they moved in and built their own dam within a couple of days. And the government was saved of 1.2 million euros, which translates to about 44 million NT dollars. So I think the government was probably pleased about that. While we're fighting about this issue, the beavers went in there and solved the problem. And I don't think they said, well, we don't want that. We're going to go tear down the dam of the beavers. No, let's just leave it there. Let's let nature run its course.
Isn't that nice to see the government make a wise decision for once? So this new wetland now covers nearly 5 acres. That's a lot of land. An acre is a unit of measure for land that we use in the States, but you can compare it to a peeing. I had to look it up because I have no idea, but it's 1,214 peeings, 1 acre. At home, my parents had an acre. It didn't seem that big, though. We built our house, and we have a little front yard and a bigger backyard because we wanted to play. And my parents built that house so we could do what we wanted. But yeah, it's a lot of land. 5 acres is a nice area, about twice what was first planned. So the beavers went ahead and made a dam that gave the city or the area around there even more land.
Indeed, and I hope hunters don't go out there and try to shoot these beavers because they've been very beneficial to the environment there, so leave those beavers alone.
Yeah.
Here in the next paragraph, again, it says it now covers nearly 5 acres, and the beavers' work prevents flooding, it improves water quality, and creates habitats for wildlife. So what they have done is very beneficial. First of all, it prevents flooding. That's when a lot of water goes into one area. If we've got these dams built by the beavers, it stops the water from flooding in. It also improves the water quality, so it's not acidic or it's not really harmful to creatures or human beings. And also, it gives places to live for wildlife, which means wild animals living outside, other animals like rabbits, turtles, wolverines, or whatever kind of animals they have in Czechia.
Yeah, we would never talk about pets being wildlife. These are animals that are not domesticated. They still live in nature. And some of them aren't used to being around people. A habitat, of course, It's just a natural home of either an animal or a plant. Could be their environment, their ecosystem. So the beavers' work did a lot of good. So though they are also blamed by people, these are the beavers, for damage caused by cutting down trees because they do like to chew on wood. They like to use their little teeth. Their teeth get sharper as they use them, which is interesting. The experts explain the beaver's activity allows sunlight in and helps other plants grow. So nature just works fine if we just leave it alone. It's when humans get involved that things have trouble and we have problems.
Absolutely. So again, some people complained, hey, those beavers are causing actual damage there. They're cutting down trees with their big sharp teeth. That's no good. We want to keep the trees there. But experts about beavers explain that their activity allows sunlight in that helps other plants grow. So that's kind of a natural phenomenon with beavers cutting down trees. We don't like wildfires, but sometimes they're necessary because they clear growth in areas. The brush burns out, and so new trees can grow. So sometimes nature does a good job of taking care of itself, including beavers. Moreover, or in addition, the area became a protected zone in 2016 and lies far from farmland, which reduces the risk of conflict with nearby residents. So this is in addition, some more information. The area is now protected, and it's been a protected area for a number of years. It was protected back in 2016, and it also is located far from farmland. Okay, so farmers can't complain because, hey, this is happening kind of far away from their farms, so they can't say, oh, it's affecting our crops. No, it's not because it's pretty far away from their fields.
Wow, so far to date, the beavers have already built 4 dams and are still expanding their eco-friendly work. Well, we wish them all the best. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, no Chinese teacher, but then we'll be back to talk about our next news story.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's continue with our lesson for today. Again, it's our news unit, and it's also our all-English unit. First of all, today, we talked about beavers building dams in the Czech Republic, and they're actually beneficial to the local environment there. Now we're going to go to another place in Europe. We're going to talk about European chickens. I guess this is happening mostly in France. It could be happening in other parts, I guess in Belgium as well.
Yeah.
And we've got these chicken programs, and they want to build greener communities. I don't imagine chickens building dams or things like that, but
No.
We'll have to look at the details here and find out what this has to do with chickens.
Yeah, how is this leading to a greener community? That was my first question. So to start off, we're going to talk about this word combat. That means fight against something. So you want to fight against food waste. Wasting food is not good. Some towns in France and Belgium, 2 separate countries, the thing that ties them together to me is that they both speak French. Although Belgium has 2 other languages that are officially spoken, and they are languages of Dutch.
Frisian and Dutch.
Dutch, which is Flemish, right?
Yeah.
And then German, which I didn't know, but there was a little German community in the eastern part of Belgium. If you're a tourist like me, you just probably went to Brussels to get those Belgian waffles, which are delicious. And in Brussels, the capital, they mainly speak French.
Okay, there you go. So I'm sure it's a touristy place, so if you speak English there, you can get by. But it's always fun to speak the local language as well. But in any case, we've got residents in France and Belgium, and they're being given free chickens. Probably not people who live in Brussels. That's probably a big city. I think they're talking about communities in the country, in the countryside, because they can keep chickens out there. It's very difficult to raise chickens in a city. Well, let's talk about chickens here. They are omnivores, which means they eat both meat and plants. They pretty much eat everything. So they can eat most household leftovers and naturally minimize waste while providing fresh eggs. So, of course, we're always talking about the problem of food waste in the world. Lots of countries don't eat all their food. They throw out a lot of food, and this is kind of bad for the environment, and poor people don't have enough to eat, while rich people are throwing out tons of food. So this is supposed to address this problem. These chickens can eat all the household leftovers. Household means having to do with your home. Like, what is the household income of your family? How much money do your dad and your mom make at their jobs? That's your household income. And leftovers, of course, refers to the food that we don't eat.
Now, a household just means the group of people living in the same house, right? So usually it's just one family. It could be a grandpa and grandma, though, here in Taiwan. Your household might include another generation. So, yeah, they want to minimize those leftovers. We use that word leftovers only in the plural form. Don't ever say I have a leftover. No, I have leftovers. For some reason, it's always plural. It's just the food that remains after you've eaten dinner or a meal. It's extra food. If it's for animals, and we had a dog that liked leftovers, especially meat or bones that we had from maybe steaks or a roast that my mom would cook, we call that scraps. Give the scraps to the dog. We wouldn't usually say, I'm going to eat the scraps that are left over from our meal. Leftover, that are leftover is different than saying leftovers, which is a noun. So yeah, it's just the food that remains after you've eaten a meal. And, sometimes I'll put my leftovers in the fridge and then I'll forget about them. Or I'll be hungry and they won't sound very appealing or very tempting to me. So I'll fix something new. But that's probably a waste of food. I was cleaning out my fridge today, Tom, and threw out some leftovers that I never got to. I wanted something else to eat at the time. So I'm going to try to do better about that. If you minimize something, you're reducing it, and they want to minimize waste. At the same time, these chickens will provide, of course, fresh eggs, which is excellent.
Right. So if you have a lot of food left over, then you have a lot of leftovers. Okay. So, of course, they minimize waste. The chickens do by eating the table scraps or the household leftovers. And they also provide fresh eggs. Okay. Who doesn't like eggs unless you're a vegan or something like that? And one well-known example is Colmar, a town in northeastern France. I don't really speak French. I probably butchered that name. I don't quite know how to say that in French, but Colmar is how it's spelled, so that's how I'm going to say it. And it's in northeastern France, which is probably near Belgium, which launched a program in 2015 offering 2 free hens per household. If you launch something, you begin a project, you might launch a political campaign, for example, to try to get your candidate elected. You could launch a product, for example, if your company has just introduced a new product to the market. And this program was launched or it was begun in 2015, and they offered 2 free hens per household. A hen is a female chicken. The male is called the rooster.
Right. We also use launch to talk about a ship taking off after it's been set off, and also a rocket. We launch rockets into space, or the atmosphere at least. So here we're going to kick off or start something like a project or an event. Here's a program. If you're in marketing, guys, you're always going to be using launch because you'll have new marketing programs or campaigns. We launch a campaign for not just marketing products, but also political figures who want to assume some political office. They'll launch their campaign. Again, it just means to begin, start, or kick off something. So, yeah, they launched a program back in 2015, and they were offering 2 free hens per household. You didn't even have to buy anything. You had to have some land, though, because those chickens need to walk around. You don't want to put them in a coop. I live in a neighborhood near an elementary school, and they've got a chicken coop in their backyard, which is interesting. But the chickens don't have to stay there. I've noticed they get inside when it's raining, but when it's nice, they want to be out walking around along the grass. And that makes for more healthy eggs, too.
Indeed, although the problem with chickens is that they smell bad if you don't keep them clean. We'll talk about that in just a couple of seconds. But again, these households were offered 2 free hens, and participants, people who received the hens, must provide 8 to 10 square meters of space, and they also need to agree to random inspections. So it sounds like they need to be living in the country with a farm or something like that. They can't be living in an apartment. They don't have enough space for that.
No.
And then, of course, they also have to agree to inspections by government officials. They come around, they check on the chickens, they make sure they're doing okay. That's what an inspection is, when somebody comes and looks over something to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we have inspections of our cars to see if the exhaust is dirty or clean enough for the environment. I used to hate those car inspections that we had every year, hoping my little car would pass. It just means to check something, especially to check for problems, right? An inspection. All the restaurants have to be inspected by the government to see if they pass certain standards so that the restaurant eaters can feel at ease knowing it's a clean place, that there aren't rats or bugs running around. So that's important. So they did have to agree to random, meaning they wouldn't tell them when they were coming. They would just show up. So random inspections, they'd have to be on the alert and always keep the area clean and nice for the hens.
Yeah, they had to come and make sure that people weren't plucking the chickens, removing their feathers to make pillows or whatever. The hens had to be nice and healthy and things
or eating
like that.
them, I guess. You could eat your
true.
hens.
Some poor people may actually, strangle the chickens and cut them up and make gongbao jiding. Oh, there's Chinese. I'm not supposed to speak Chinese. But in any case, yeah, chicken kind of, kung pao chicken, I think it's called in English. But yes, they have to agree to those random inspections. As you said, everybody has to have their cars inspected. Here in Taiwan, our car is kind of old, so we have to have it inspected every year, once a year. And over 5,200 or 5,200 hens have been distributed so far, and the program is still ongoing. So that is a lot of hens, and therefore that kind of indicates that this program is doing quite well.
I think this is great, actually. I have a sister who has a lot of animals that she raises. They have a big farm, and they've got chickens. And it's interesting because the kids know so much more about nature than kids in the city who are never exposed close up to this. So besides just minimizing or reducing waste, raising chickens has brought unexpected benefits. And here are the good things that raising chickens has brought about. Children get to learn about animals and nature. And also, it probably gives them some chores to do. Maybe you assign a 10-year-old son or daughter to feed the chickens, make sure they're fed, to change their water, make sure they're okay. That's good for children to have responsibilities as well. And what are the neighbors? What happens with the neighbors of people who have chickens?
Well, they bond, okay? And they bond by sharing tips or helping with chicken care. Now, here to bond means to connect with somebody. You can be friendly with them. You share information. You become more friendly with them. This does not mean that the people are bonding with the chickens, although they might be they might be close to the chickens like they would their pets. The chickens actually become their pets or whatever, and they're very concerned about them. But here they're just referring to neighbors bonding, and they can share tips with each other. Hey, what should I do if the hen keeps jumping up on the sofa all the time? Well, you can do this or you can do that. I tried this. Oh, you did. And they become closer and they share ideas.
Yeah, that's how my sister figured out one of her little baby chicks was actually a rooster. As he grew, it was causing problems with the hens. They don't react the same, and you don't need a rooster for hens to produce eggs. So they got rid of that fellow, but it was by talking to one of her neighbors who'd been raising chickens for a long time. This is when she first started out. So those are good things. With egg shortages, all of us have read about that. We don't seem to have egg shortages here in Taiwan so much. Every once in a while, my grocery store will be out of eggs. But it's not something you want to run into because we use eggs in so many dishes. And if you live where you have an oven and you like to bake, you must have eggs. They're essential and they're so healthy. I try to eat eggs every day, actually.
There was a shortage of eggs last year, but this year in the winter, there wasn't a shortage of eggs. So we all are kind of at the mercy of the environment. We never know if there's going to be a shortage or not. And yes, eggs have been they've had egg shortages in recent years, so this program could be viable elsewhere, in other places. If something's viable, it can be done. It's very useful. You could also use the word feasible. It could be feasible elsewhere. They could do it in other places as well.
Yeah. So if you have a shortage, you don't have enough of something, they might also talk about a scarcity of something or a lack of something. Hopefully we don't have to deal with those egg shortages. too much in the future, but you never know. So some suggest this kind of program could be viable elsewhere. As Tom said, viable can mean able to work or succeed. We'll often use this word to talk about little babies before they're born. And maybe the baby's having issues or the mother's having issues and they need to take the baby early. They'll say that baby's viable. It can live outside the mother's womb. So yeah, it's possible or it's doable. Now, they also warn us, though, about something else, and that's avian flu or bird flu. You've probably heard about that. There are care costs also to raising chickens. You've got to buy. If you don't have leftover scraps from your household table, you might need to buy some chicken feed. We call it chicken feed. It looks like little seeds that they give them. Mm-hmm. So there are some costs to this as well.
Yep, so these things, avian flu and the cost of care, will raise doubts about the program's sustainability, its viability, you could say, just whether it can continue or not. And even so, the humble chicken may still have a role to play in building greener communities. So yes, indeed, this is the humble chicken, the simple chicken that is all over the world. I think most people raise and kill chickens to eat, except in certain religious parts of the world where they don't eat meat. But hey, we love our chicken here in Taiwan, and it still has a role to play in those communities in France and Belgium. I wonder if it's viable here in Taiwan to do that with farm families in Taiwan. I wonder if it would work.
I like this idea. Well, you can debate about this after we finish, but we got to first sign off. Thanks for joining us. We hope you learned a lot. And for those words you don't know yet, we encourage you to look them up and try to put them into your active vocabulary. Check out our YouTube page and our Instagram page. Is it YouTube and
Facebook?
Facebook. Thank you. I don't know if we're on IG. We should be. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.